All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Wednesday, December 8th, 2021 business meeting and work session of the Richmond Community Schools. Everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could have the reading of the mission and vision, please.
Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Richmond Community Schools' vision is a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2, celebrations. Dr. Wright.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Central Office. This evening we are visited by our very talented Performing Arts Department and our amazing students of Richmond High School. I'm going to ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, our communication specialist, come up to the podium and introduce exactly who we have with us today and what exactly they are going to do to showcase their true talents. Now, if they need me to maybe help in the background, very far background, just let me know I'm okay.
I will. Well, and I know Miss Stoltz played the cello. Jennifer played. Oh, did you not play the cello?
I was in madrigals.
Oh, so
this was my
you.
crew.
Anybody else in madrigals in high school?
Me.
Nice.
So I think you guys should guest appear.
Sang choir
Yeah, guest
in junior
appearance.
high.
So
I flunked 8th grade choir.
nice. So,
True
so
story.
Mr. Peter Ball is a 2014. He's a 2014 graduate of Richmond High School. He's also our choir director here at Richmond High School and at Test. Dennis. So he brought some students with him today to bring some holiday cheer to us, just to highlight some of them. And so I'm going to, without further ado, I'm going to have go ahead and set up. And then Mr. Hampton's also here as his accompanist.
We can do stakes, we got this. We're not the marching band.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Simmons. Happy birthday to you.
Carol of the Bell?
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, but only time for
Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, meek and the full. Ding dong, that is their song, with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, the loud raising the sound, oh, the guitar their tone. Gaily they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding, merry, merry, merry Christmas. Ding, merry, merry, merry Christmas. On they send on without end their joyful tone to every home. Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Ding dong, that is their song, with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, the clown raising the sound, oh, the guitar their tone. Gaily they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding, merry, merry, merry Christmas. Ding, merry, merry, merry Christmas. On they send, on without end their joyful tone to every home. Dawn on they send, on without end their joyful tone to every home. Ding dong, ding dong.
If you guys would like to join join us for this next one. We're going to sing Jingle Bells, which hopefully you all know.
That's all right, get up
I
there.
know, I think you need to come sing with us.
You offered.
Oh,
By the way,
Yes.
that last selection, it's the same as it was 45
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago, okay?
Go on, Dr. Wright. You got the uniform on.
You
Go
can at
on.
least sing from there if you want
You
to.
know, I'll
You can come join us. All right. Jingle Bells, ready? Yes. I think you guys can sing out a little bit more. There we go.
Laughing all the way, bells on bobtails ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Good job. Thank you. I think you need to come join again. All right, and we have one more section.
Yeah, that's fine. And then also, before you guys leave, if they have any questions
Of course.
for anybody, if you guys want to ask some questions.
Of course. Let's finish the last song and then I can answer whatever you want, hopefully. All right.
Very impressive.
Telling you what.
Thank you, guys.
Wow.
Good.
That was so fun.
Thank you guys.
Can Every meeting this way.
What grades are the students in?
We have, let's see, we do have freshmen in here, right? Yes, we have non freshmen, and then we have all the way up to seniors. Seniors, can you raise your hands? So, we have a little bit of everything sprinkled in here.
All
And we
right.
have all chamber choir members, then a handful of these people are members of show choir. I think I have 1 or 2 people who are in symphonic choir, and a few people who are also in band here. So,
Are any of you, after graduation, plan on furthering your music career and studies? Where are you going? If you don't mind.
I've applied to Miami University in Ball State.
Molly, what's your plan?
I've applied to Notre Dame, and that would be my top choice. But I've also applied to Butler and IU Bloomington as well. So.
Anybody here want to become a music teacher?
I want to be an instrumentalist teacher.
What instrument do you play?
I play trumpet and French horn.
So do I. Oh, that's great.
ditto, so small world.
If someone listened and wanted an opportunity to hear you again, will you be performing again in the
Yes.
future?
So we have a concert this upcoming Tuesday. Obviously, you all are invited. It starts at 7 o'clock. You will hear the chamber choir, symphonic choir, our RHS bell choir, which was an up-and-coming class here soon, our jazz band, and all of our middle school choirs, which is about 100 students. So lots and lots of kids that will be singing this upcoming Tuesday. So
Awesome. Well done, guys.
Is that a free concert?
it is. If you want to make donations, we always
Free
like that.
concert.
Yes. So
Fantastic.
please come enjoy. They're singing those 3 pieces. Well, they won't sing Happy Birthday. I'm so sorry. But they'll be singing those pieces and a lot of other pieces, and just trying to get into the holiday spirit as we, get ready to finish the semester up. So.
Where is this?
Civic Theater or Civic Hall. Civic Hall. One of the civic places,
Makes a difference.
Yes.
So Civic Hall next Tuesday,
It's 7 o'clock.
7 p.m. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Wonderful.
Okay.
All right, I agree. It'd be, you think they'll come every meeting?
I didn't.
Definitely is a way to establish a positive sentiment
Yes.
to the evening.
Well, and it reaffirms children first.
Yeah.
What was that?
Always care for the student.
Always care for
Students first.
replace the
Have a good night.
veteran.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Moving on to public commentary. Mrs. Claypool. All right.
Well, although I rushed over here, thank you for putting me up front right after the singing. I don't know if I can follow up that end. I believe, attending the last school board meeting, if that indeed was when it was, that I was here. And I thank you for having me here again regarding some of the recent chain of events and the series of unforced errors that serve as a direct link to the business of those assembled here this evening. Thank you for all showing up. I know I don't have to be here, but nonetheless, here we all are. I'd like to specifically refer to the events surrounding the violence and altercations of some athletic department coaching staffs this past summer. Now, I know this is not new to you, but the suspension of coaching staffs so as to temper the furtherance of such embarrassment delivered to the public domain through newspaper coverage, and as the kids today refer to it as the blowing up of their digital devices, social network, Facebook, and the like. Sadly, I can also cite a more recent follow-up by students at the Tiernan Center girls basketball game, when a largely unchecked melee of students charged out on the court, interrupting the game and ignoring attempts by key administration officials to cease and desist or to return to the stands peacefully. These pleas being summarily dismissed. This disrespect, I submit, to be modeled after examples set to the earlier incident in the Ohio-Richmond scrimmage football. Connect the dots. It's not that difficult. Anyone with 2 cents worth of imagination can see the cause and effect. These measures of examples currently portend a trending where students feel empowered to act out not in good sportsmanship, rather than a violent behavior imitating inappropriate role modeling, by such glory-hounding coaching and tactics, especially when terminating sanctions perpetuate with impunity. Now that's important, and I'd like to repeat it, especially when terminating sanctions perpetuate with impunity. It's almost as if we're enabling this type of behavior. When and at what point does this appalling behavior catch the attention of Richmond's community school board's tolerance threshold? The import and export of these samples of actionable mayhem will mute out the mission statements of the Richmond High School Alumni Association, founded in 1871, and I might add, the third oldest organization as such here in the country, when they so eloquently stated, to provide paths of learning experiences that truly enable adherence and opportunity for students to leave these halls and excel in their own right, as we have instilled in them first and foremost the values of a real education. I'm certainly optimistic that someone here assembled tonight, any one of you, might want to press these matters further, as I have done since 1992. I've been here, this is my 5th occasion regarding what I seem to, well, I perceive, and I don't know the daily ongoings here, but I perceive that this erosion of discipline will eventually only become more of a precursor to events that will follow. I remember when I first came to Richmond in 1992, it was a banner year for the school. We had won the state basketball championship, but to some degree it was overshadowed by front page headlines of the grade scandal of one of our own in the principal office, altering grades in the filing cabinet to advance a certain family member to going to the college of their first choice. Now, that's not a regular occurrence, but it points to a history of downplaying and over the years covering up a lot of internal memos that deal with student violence. And these 2 recent examples that I accounted here tonight do, in most instances, serve as a warning to everyone here, as well as in the community. I mean, the people in the community, they're busy with their lives, but they trust to you their children. I don't know if we've really earned that trust yet in light of the...
Mr. Egan, I have 5 minutes. That's usually where we limit our time.
Well, good, and I thank you for calling that to my attention. I'd like to say I've got a prompt here that is very timely in USA Today.
I mean,
It says,
it's limited
"We
to
alone
5
can
minutes,
fix
sir.
it." Has anyone seen this?
No, but it's limited to 5 minutes, so.
Yes, I
We're going to have
understand
to move on
that.
with the
I
agenda.
understand that. I would like everyone to take a look at this tonight and go home and see exactly, it's almost
Sir,
like a homework
I've
assignment.
asked you politely.
And I
if
am.
we're gonna talk about
sir,
obeying
if you'll
rules,
just let me
you should start
conclude,
with-
I will be very happy. Don't talk over me, and I can get to my exit here.
Sir, we've given you
Okay.
ample
Well, there
opportunity.
you go. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time in pointing out how much overtime I've spent on this, even though this goes back to 1992.
Can you please return to your
You don't need to raise your
seat?
voice, sir. I'm leaving.
It doesn't appear so. Please leave.
Well, I think if you have the
Sir, your
patience,
time
I
is
will
up.
do that. Thank you, Brad, for pointing that out.
Moving on to item 4, consent items. Dr. Wright?
President Weber, trustees, I come before you to ask for approval for consent items 4.01, 4.02, 4.03, 4.04, and 4.05, along with the amendment found in 4.02 as presented.
I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent items with the addendum as presented tonight.
I'll
Motion
second.
by Aaron Stevens, second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to action items. Item 5.01, donations. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Mrs. Karen Scalf, our Chief Financial Officer, come before us to present items 5.01 through 5.05. Mrs. Scalf, if you don't mind coming
Good
before the board
evening.
to ask for approval. Yes, thank you.
Tonight before you are 6 donations that we have received over the past month. We would like to thank all of these donors for the generous resources they're providing to our students and in other activities such as Civic Hall. So tonight we'd like to thank Stoltz Family Dentistry for donating to the boys basketball team, as well as Eyes 2020 Inc., Doing Business as Optivision, and Wayne Bank. Also, we'd like to thank Annie Brannock and Jim and Penny Duke for donating to the Proudly Presenting series at Civic Hall. The Blackbaud Giving Fund through Duke Energy Foundation donated classroom supplies, a grant for Star Elementary. So, or it's not really a grant, it's a donation to a specific teacher that parents can opt into to participate in that. So, tonight I ask that the board accept $7,310 in donations.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
A second.
second by Kristen Brunton. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I would reiterate thanking the community. Any additional questions, comments? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Dr. Wright?
Moving on,
Or,
tonight I request an additional docket in the month of December. Due to the early board meeting, which is tonight, I would like permission to do an additional accounts payable docket. This docket would be approved by the board at the first January 2022 meeting. This will allow us to pay our vendors in a timely manner and better reflect our 2021 expenses. We do expect that docket to run the week of the 21st. But it's my recommendation tonight that the board grant permission to process an additional docket in December 2021 as it's been presented. And this is past practice, so there is nothing new with this request.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
I'll say it.
second by Keith Morey. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, moving
Scalf.
on to the budget appropriation transfer. It's hard to believe we're already in December and we're having to talk about end of year information again, but it's the tonight I ask for 2021 budget appropriation transfers for our taxing funds. Each year as we go through the process of closing the books on our taxing funds, there are line items that have been expended less than appropriated and those that have expended more than appropriated in the approved budget. We are required to have board action on transfers of appropriation from one major functional category to another. as expressed on the adopted budget forms, which you do in the August of the year before. These transfers will take place as we complete our year-end processing. Specific dollar amounts will be presented at a January 2022 board meeting for final approval, and a resolution will accomplish the budget appropriation transfer process and balance all line item expenditures in the 2021 budget. The process shifts available appropriations from where there was not a need to where there was a need within the education fund, debt service fund, and operations fund. No transfers of expenditures will be made that were in excess of the total available appropriation in each of those funds. It's my recommendation tonight that the Board of School Trustees authorize the treasurer to transfer appropriations between expenditure function accounts of the 2021 budget appropriations and to conduct interfund transfers to enable balancing subject to subsequent board approval.
Thank you.
I move to approve 5.03, the budget appropriation transfer.
Motion by Aaron Stevens,
I'll second.
second by Brad Walton. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay,
Scout.
moving on to change orders. Tonight before you, we have 3 change orders. The first being Inslee Systems, Inc. on the roof replacement at Vale. This is a deduct change order and does complete the project. We just have the retainer left, so once this change order is done, we'll punch out the rest and call that project complete. We have a change order with Arcom Builders. We have 2, in fact, one for the 2nd and 3rd floor renovation. The second is a part of the 2nd and 3rd floor renovation, but it is specifically for the temporary outside air unit. We had talked through this earlier in the year, so we knew this was coming, but it's ready to roll. So those separately is $7,530 and $58,170, and it's my recommendation that the board approve those change orders as they're presented.
Thank you.
I recommend we approve 5.04, the change orders as listed.
Motion by Brad Walton,
I'll second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And it's going back to at the beginning, is this driven from, for the expenditure of the temporary unit for the outside air? Is it because of the delivery of the equipment or the construction schedule couldn't be met?
Delivery of equipment. It was delayed. It was ordered prior to all of the procurement issues that we found, and so we didn't realize there was going to be a delay when we initially ordered, and we needed to get school started. So this was a little bit unexpected.
Well, and I guess that's the point that ideally we rushed through this project with the anticipation that we wouldn't have to do this, because renting a unit and a crane and setting it in place for a temporary, I mean, by all means, we had to do it for our students. I understand that, but it is a little disappointing that the manufacturer of the equipment couldn't do something to that because the delay was on them, but it is what it is, so.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Mrs. Scout?
Okay, and my last action item for the evening is the HVAC bid for Vale, Westview, and Charles. Tonight, we make a recommendation to accept the bid received on this project. The notice to bidders was published in the Palladium item on October 29th, 2021 and November 5th, 2021. Proof and publication and all bid documents are on file in the business office. The receipt of the bid report is attached for your information. It's recommended that the bid be awarded to Thor Construction with a base bid of $974,000 and acceptance of alternate number 2 and alternate number 4 and alternate number 5. Tonight, it's the administration's recommendation that we award the bid to Thor Construction as it's been presented. I will make one side note in this. Mr. Glenn Slifer, wanted me to make the board aware that the 2 alternates on the boilers, funds do not currently allow in the budget for those alternates. However, he did want me to offer that he would like to complete those. It's not the recommendation at this time. However, he did want the board to be aware that he did want to see those completed. So.
Well, and we did have some discussion, but one of the questions that I had asked earlier was the fact is, did we have the clause that we could go back like 60 days like we had with McGuire if we found additional monies, and that clause is not in this contract. So it's either you accept it tonight or you go back later and say, hey, we found the money, let's request a change order, and then that might get into problems with Davis-Bacon. I don't understand that enough, but regardless.
Within the scope of what you bid, I don't think I'd have a lot of heartburn with that, given.
Since we don't have that option, then I can see why that we can't approve those alternates tonight, so.
I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
A motion to approve 5.05, the HVAC bids as presented.
Motion by Brad Walton,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens.
Aaron's
So based on the conversation, are we content to, approve and then go change order route if need be?
The contract will come back to you. You're making the award tonight based upon the bid tabulation submitted and the recommendation of the Mr. Slifer and Mr. Hamilton and the committee and
Okay.
the administration.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Dr. Wright.
President Weber and trustees, at this time I ask that our Director of Student Achievement come before us to speak about the NIET initiative there at Dennis and for approval of the contract extension for NIET.
Good evening. It is recommended that the Board of School Trustees accept the contract for Dennis Intermediate School from NIET for professional development for the spring 2022 semester as presented. Dennis Intermediate School is in comprehensive support and improvement status by the IDOE. This identification is based on Dennis being a Title I school in the overall federal rating and the lowest achieving 5% of all Title I schools. NIET and their work will provide the tools as part of an overall strategy to continue to address issues contributing to the lower performance with these students. Of course, the key is to isolate and continue to systematically address the root causes of the problems with academic achievement. NIET will continue to provide professional development based on the strengths-based needs assessment that was conducted this fall. NIET will visit Dennis each month to provide coaching to teachers and the leadership team throughout the spring 2022 school year. Training will be funded using the School Improvement Grant 2021 Professional Development Funds for Dennis, and the attached contract is for, again, Dennis Intermediate School.
Thank you. Happy to entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
I'll second.
second by Keith Morey. Any questions or comments?
I think it's great. We're seeing you here every board meeting, so we either need to get an initiative that's not going, or get you a nameplate. Let's just get you one of these company seats, right? Anyway, no, I appreciate all of the work that you're doing with all of these schools and keeping things moving.
Thank you.
Agreed.
It's a lot.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Sonsini. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Dr. Wright, thank you.
President Weber, trustees, I now ask that our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. O'Brien, carry out action item 5.07.
Thank you. All right, tonight I bring to you the 2021, well, this would actually be the, it's on here, it should be the 22-23 curriculum guide, so I'll ask Mrs. Claypool to make that change. The changes are highlighted throughout the document. You can see there's a little spot at the front where we'll be adding a new photo, but there is a new course this year, or for the next school year, ACP Biology A and B will be added. And some changes just in the descriptions and things as highlighted and outlined in the attachment. So at this time, I ask the board approve the 22-23 Richmond High School curriculum guide as presented.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve action item 5.07, the 2022-23 RHS curriculum guide.
Motion by Kristen Brunton,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Keith, did you have a comment? I'm sorry.
I just want to say, I think, like, the amount of time that we spend on this is very quick, but I think the amount of time that admin spends on this is pretty immense, and I just wanted to state how appreciative we are that the amount of work that goes in it. There's a lot that goes into this, and making sure that everything is where it needs to be, and I just want to acknowledge, while we approve it pretty quickly, the path to getting to here is a pretty long one, and I appreciate it.
Concur. Oh, good.
Yeah, it's a working document, so as soon as we approve it, the work starts immediately on just continuing to monitor, make notes as changes are noted. We know that at any time, if there's a need prior to the next cycle, that we would bring it back to you for any addendums or corrections from that standpoint. But it does go through a lengthy discussion and vetting process at the high school. It then goes to corporate discussion for basically conversation and discussion at that forum, and then to the school board for approval. So.
And the ACP bio, that means if I take and pass that, I will have college credit?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah. So that's a nice little touch too.
Yes.
It's a lot cheaper than when you get to the school.
That it is.
One thing I wanted to point out is just the fact that we have a steel drum option. I mean, I
Yes.
think that's pretty unique. I've not heard of any other high schools that offer that in our area, so way to go, Richmond.
Beginning
You'll see a lot of
and advanced.
A lot
Right,
of change.
two options.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of the changes in the descriptions are based on some of the music classes. I think you saw a sample of that this evening. We have a group of talented professionals that are eager to, not necessarily do things the way we've always done them, and look for some opportunities to provide some new and exciting things for students. So
Kind of branch
we
out
appreciate that. Yes.
for some different things. Yeah.
Sir.
Okay, one of them that was removed was the CNA. That's no longer an option?
It is. It's through Ivy Tech.
Yeah.
Okay, not here, through Ivy Tech, okay. I want to ask the reason why explanation. I just know that there's a huge void out there in that profession right now, and as as Keith made a comment, or someone made the comment a moment ago, it's easier to pay for it here than there, but as long as it's still being offered, but
Well, the corporation, We handle that. It's no change for students. It's
Okay.
just that they're going to Ivy Tech instead of the Leland.
Okay.
And it has to do with a change in instructors. So, that was the reason before we had to change, and so, they were able to offer that to our students again. So, there's no change in the program.
All right.
It's just simply location and
Thank you.
details, I guess.
Thank you. Moving on to 6, policy review and update. We have one item, 6.01, policy 7510, wellness policy, second reading and approval.
Motion we approve policy 7510.
Thank you, Mr. Walton. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Aaron Stevens. So this is the vote for the second reading on our extensive and lengthy wellness policy. I think we've had
Yeah, 1,000 pages, right?
nearly.
Almost.
I think we've had some discussion. Is there anything else?
Most of this, just as a reminder, most of this is based on what is required through the what is it, the USDA, right? Yeah. So it's not as though we're going, yeah, let's just make up a 9-page document. It's what we're required to follow in order to get funding and food from the USDA. Yeah? Yeah.
Yes. Any other additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to our work session. Dr. Wright?
President Weber, trustees, I yet again ask that our Director of Student Achievement, Mrs. Sonsini, come back before us to present a brief synopsis and brief report with regard to our student educational data. As Mr. Sonsini is setting up, one of the things that we will continue to do as we move down the road is, as any educator will share with you, drilling down and peeling back the layers of data is imperative when you're making decisions. Oftentimes, data, as we know, will confirm and or allow for educators to deny particular anecdotal or particular viewpoints or feelings that one may have. And so one of the things that this snapshot and as we move down the road, the drilling down of data will allow us to do is really capture the areas in which we'll be focusing a lot of our attention. And so without further ado, Mrs. Sonsini.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Wright and board members. So this evening I'm going to be highlighting 2 different areas. The first is NWEA. NWEA is given 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring, in 3 different subject areas: reading, math, and language. Language is only given in grades 2 through 8, not in K1, but the other grades K through 8 test in reading and math. We are in the midst of our winter benchmark, so what I share with you this evening is just our fall baseline. I would be happy to come back after the first of the year and share where we're at in the middle of the year with some of the growth data. The second piece that I'll be sharing with you this evening is new. It is our common formative assessments that were developed K through 4 last spring. This is the first year of implementation of those common formative assessments.
Now, the NWEA information is pretty quick turnaround on getting the results back.
Yes.
Unlike some of the other tests we administer.
Yes. And these are local. So as soon as a student finishes, they'll have a snapshot on their screen of how they've performed even in subgroups. And so a lot of times we're even analyzing at that point with a student and a teacher beside and having test talks. So going in, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but prior to, kids know where those goals are, not only for the achievement of a grade level RIT, but also their individual growth goal.
So they get pretty much instantaneous feedback.
Yes. And then the second, so there's 2 parts of the common formative assessment. This year we implemented common formative assessments for preschool using a tool called ESGI. And their standards are called early foundations. It means the same thing. It's basically what we're teaching. The Department of Ed just labels those as early foundations. So I'll be sharing that with you, as well as the K-4 EdSite data. And those are checks for mastery on ELA and math high priority standards, which came out of the work with our curriculum mapping teams last spring. This feeds into our intervention and what some of you have heard about, Success Time, and how we provide reteaching of skill specifics, or specific skills to students. This is the K1 data for reading for NWA. On the left-hand side, what you're seeing is the RCS RIT score. That's the average RIT score for a kindergarten student. So, and I won't go into every single grade level this way, but I want you to understand what you're looking at. In the second column is the norm, and that is the average RIT score of a nationwide sample of same grade level students who took the same test and tested in the same term as observed in the last NWA norming study. And I will tell you the last norming study was done prior to COVID. Okay, so these are pre-COVID norms that we are dealing with. And then the next 1, 2, 3, 4 columns are the subcategories within that kindergarten test. So in reading, we're looking at reading foundations, literature and nonfiction, vocabulary, and writing. So on this screen, you're looking at, again, kindergarten and first. These scores, RITs, it's basically a measure of student achievement and growth. The RIT scales range anywhere from 100 to 350. RIT scores make it possible to follow a student's educational growth from year to year. So as you see kindergarten data through 8th grade data, you're hoping that those numbers continue to increase. As I look at each grade level, I'm looking for areas of strength and then areas of weakness, not only in the grade level, but then across grade levels. So if you look at the first screen in K1, I've identified writing as an area of weakness compared to the other subcategories. But I also want to highlight that our RCS average RIT score is very close to the norm, the national norm. And what I appreciate about that is our teachers at that level who have kids coming into them and really see the struggle and the variation of skill level of 5-year-olds and are able to yet still continue to grow kids from where they're at. So I wanted to point that out on this first screen. As we move into reading for grades 2 through 8, what you see again is that first column, the norm for Richmond at that grade level, the second column, the national norm. In reading grades 2 through 8, you have 3 categories. You have literature, nonfiction, and vocabulary. Mrs. Kirk, our district instructional coach for literacy, and I were speaking today, and I was thinking about why is nonfiction so much harder? Because you see that. And we talked about the background knowledge that you have to have, the vocabulary, and also just exposure to that genre. A lot of times we don't see that. We see a lot more of the storytelling piece in the literature, and kids seem to gravitate to that. So the nonfiction is a harder, we see that in benchmarks too. Kids score lower on a nonfiction benchmark than they do a literature benchmark. I also want to remind you that our adopted curriculum, Fontes and Pinnell Classroom, was adopted and implemented in the fall of 2019. So if you think back to the fall of 2019, at that time we did not finish the spring semester with our curriculum. Last year we did not have every student in the building. So I really think about this year as being, as crazy as it sounds, the first year to hopefully fully implement the FPC curriculum with all students. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is that we wanted to bring standards to that curriculum to ensure what we were teaching was grounded. And so in our curriculum mapping process last year, we identified those standards, and that's what we tied to Fontes and Pinnell Classroom. So again, you look at the data piece, but then you also backwards map to see what's in place to kind of continue to grow students and make sure that we don't have holes in our curriculum. Next is the math. And so if you take a look at the math, we are up for an adoption. We're actually starting that committee work next week. So this is using the Go Math resources. But again, at K1, you notice that those norms are very close. And hopefully you have a copy of this that you can look at and provide me with feedback as I come before you next semester with continued data talks. But that kindergarten and first are very close in terms of the national norm and RCS. One thing that I did notice K through 5 is that computation tends to be an area that we struggle with. We did implement Rocket Math, which kind of hits those foundation math facts. And so we'll continue to look at that. We've even scaled to what expectations should be at each grade level. They're leveled by letters, so how many letters students should proceed through at each grade level. The next slide is math for grades 6 through 8. The one thing that I did notice there is geometry and measurement tends to be an area of weakness. And again, they're all relative to the other scores. So when I say I'm looking, there are definite areas of strength, but I'm also looking at the tail end of things that we need to continue to fix in our curriculum maps. And so that is just a basic snapshot of reading and math. The third piece is writing. Language, and so again, kindergarten and first grade do not take a separate language test, but there are 3 categories: writing and developing, write, develop, revise for purpose and audience, and then conventions, understanding, editing, grammar and usage, and then conventions, understanding, editing, mechanics. And so if you look at 2 through 5, what you notice is that convention piece in that third column is an area that's lower, and then when you shift to the middle school, you see that writing, developing, revising for purpose and audience is lower. So with the way that we were configured at the time, like I think we can start to kind of bridge some of these, but you see kind of more of an elementary area of focus versus a middle level of focus. So that is our snapshot for NWA. We are utilizing Smeckens Consulting to work through the writing process. We also do benchmarks on writing where we give them an actual writing prompt, and then we evaluate their writing using the 6 traits rubric. So those will be things that we'll continue to develop this year, and I will be sharing with you. So you might...
This is our fall data, and we're literally using what we have now is literally going to be our baseline for moving this point forward.
Yes. We are looking at trend data aside from last year because I even asked Dr. Wright because we did not take fall NWA last year.
Right.
No one took it. I should say locally, no one took it. In person or virtual students. And so it's really hard. There's no way for me to show growth from fall to fall, and I didn't think it was fair to go from spring to fall. And so the best thing I knew to do was just share where we're at and then continue to show growth moving forward.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to get in my head, that I can look at as we move forward, our comparisons will be this baseline to this fall.
Mm-hmm.
And a year from now or 2 years from now, because that's part of the problem is we all, and of course the state helps that with their changing of their assessments, but part of our problem is every year we seem to change our baseline.
Mm-hmm.
But we should be good for a little while now. Under NWEA, anyway.
Yes, so NWEA is part of the formative assessment grant, so that is a local decision. There are approved vendors, and then we choose which vendor that we want to partner with to provide the benchmark data. And the idea behind that is just something that best aligns to an iLearn or some standardized assessment, iRead 3. But again, revisiting those norms, I think, is something that NWA is currently doing to try to figure out how to coach us to say, okay, now what are those predictors for an iRead 3 for a 3rd grader or for an iLearn test?
Yeah, I would think the norms would be completely out of the window right now.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, Mr. Slifer, this is kind of the next step with that NWA data. I love this. It doesn't have any names or data on it, but this is the next step. This is the quadrant data, and if you look in the top left-hand corner, you see low achievement, high growth. In the top right, you see high achievement, high growth. And in the bottom 2 quadrants, you see low achievement, low growth. And in the bottom right, high achievement, low growth. And so what will happen is when we take when we complete the winter benchmark, this will populate students into each of these quadrants. So where do you think we want to see students?
Traveling northeast. Traveling
Right.
northeast.
We definitely want high achievement, high growth, but there's another quadrant that I'd like to see students in.
The bottom right would be
Low achievement, high growth.
Low achievement, high growth. So that means Brad came into us low, but we were able to grow him.
How you gonna use me as a witness?
Why didn't
We
we use the
loved on
birthday
him
boy?
anyway.
So you're the closest in proximity.
We just
So
keep
low
nurturing him.
achievement, high growth. So I'm looking, if I'm in the classroom and I'm having these conversations, those are the quadrants I'm looking at. The other piece for next steps is the student profile. And again, that's when we're sitting down individually with students. We see that screenshot of how they performed, and we're looking at, okay, if you're a high ability student, Nicole, then you may only grow 4 or 5 points between fall and spring. How do we track that at the middle of the year? Versus Brad, who's got 20 points to gain, so he may show more point growth versus a higher achieving student. So again, I'm excited to kind of revisit this with you second semester. The preschool ESGI, that is one-on-one with every preschool student. This is a snapshot, new tool. You have to first get common assessments for a preschool, but I'm really proud of this team for pulling this off because we needed some sort of data point to see where kids were in preschool. And so I thought the pie charts might be a different look versus the other data for you. It's just a little bit more friendlier. But if you take a look at this, in the top row, the first two, uppercase and lowercase letter ID, you see that they're lower percentages, but we tend to expect that in preschool. I mean, we're talking about 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds coming in and what they know in the fall. And then you see the third one, communication. So the test that they're asking kids to communicate orally on, they're performing really well. So that's a positive. That oral development comes first. And then the last one that I was impressed with in that first row is concepts about print. So concepts about print is a precursor to reading. It's knowing that, the front cover of a book, the back cover, it's knowing where the spine is, it's knowing left to right, pointing one-to-one to words. So again, all of those skills are really important for kids to continue to develop and have books in their hands. So to have those, that as a strength this early in the school year, I'm really excited because that tells me that kids have books in their hands. So the second row, I would highlight sounds as an area, but again, developmentally, we just have to meet kids where they're at. Some are ready for sounds and some are not. Shapes is something that our kids know coming into preschool, so that is a relative strength.
Question on the sounds particularly. So are speech therapists involved? I mean, with the preschool kids, I know we used to have preschool speech at Baxter when Baxter was a preschool building. I mean, how does that work?
So we have a diagnostic team that provides support to our preschool teachers, and then if they notice something that they think might be incorrect, or a communication delay, and or just pronunciation of sounds, then they'll come in and do intervention. Okay. But there's also some technique called LIPS that talks about how we make sounds. And so, for example, I have a little one who is really struggling with the TH. But if you put them in front of a mirror and they see where their tongue is supposed to be, it's quite magic how it works, but they just have to be taught, but they have to be ready for that. So we do have screeners and people that are watching for those early identifiers. Jenny Loriaga and her team, they're housed out of Westview, meet with preschool teachers monthly in our meetings, and they start the meeting with some SEBW content, but then also talk about those early identifiers or indicators for a student who might be struggling. And some of them they already know from like a student who is in Head Start or First Steps.
We have one SLP that's dedicated just for that.
Thank you.
Okay. This is the second slide. Again, I will come back to you. The same time that our K through 8 teachers are doing NWA benchmarks, our preschool teachers are doing ESGI. I thought that was the easiest way to do 3 different snapshots of data. So when we come back second semester, I can share with you where our kids are. And what I'm most excited about is for On My Way Pre-K and looking at the data for a full day 4-year-old at Star in Vail and how they've progressed with data versus a half day program. Okay, and then the last area that I wanted to highlight are our CFAs in EdSite. Remember, EdSite is a new platform, so we have the tech enhanced piece that also prepares us for standardized testing, but also the rigor that's increased with identifying high priority standards. And so what I've done here is for each grade level at the bottom, K, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're looking at each CFA that has been given. So we have given 3 CFAs since the start of the school year, and they're in that order. So kindergarten, the first CFA, the average mastery was roughly 98%. The second was 60%, and the third is 82%. Yes, our goal is 80% mastery, but a few things to think about. We cannot compare one CFA to the next CFA, and the reason why is because these are aligned to high priority standards that continue to spiral and be taught. What we did, by the end of the year, yes, they need to have all of these standards mastered, and we want them to be at 80%. However, they may not be there yet. That doesn't mean they're not going to get there by the end of the year. But in our pacing, we have to identify when are we teaching that high priority standard and when are we assessing that. So again, we're going back. I know these scores don't look great, but what I do know is that they're real. And I think that when we are raising the rigor and expectations of curriculum, new maps, and we are being honest with ourselves, and I think this is an indication that the CFA questions that we made are aligned to more rigorous content. And so when we see these scores, let's celebrate that this is where we're at and we know where we're at, and now let's grow those kids. So what are we doing in the 6-week cycle before the next CFA, CFA 4, to go back and reteach? We'll continue to get better at quick checks. Some of you might have visited STAR, and these are every 6-week cycles. What they've done is they're getting in the preventative tier 1, and every 2 weeks they're checking for the master of these standards to kind of see what they can do before it gets to the 6-week period. Also, just to note, the number of questions vary. So for kindergarten, they only had 1 or maybe 2 questions on that first CFA because it was brand new. It was a brand new platform. These kids have only been in school, a little over a month. So we'll continue to get better. But again, I really want to applaud the staff, even though these percentages don't look great. This is the work that needs to be done, and it will get better. The second slide is for math. So again, the same setup. Every time we give a CFA, we give it K through 4, we give it in language arts, and we give it in math. These CFAs were developed by our teachers in a committee process. And this data from these CFAs, we meet monthly as grade level teams. So all first grade teachers across the district meet 1 Tuesday a month during professional development. All second grade meet. And so we're going to be sharing this data. Again, it's not a gotcha at all because it's not even a grade in the grade book. That's not really what we're after. Again, we're really after what drives instruction. It's knowing what kids have mastered in terms of standards and what they haven't. And I think as I pull this all together, I continue to think about strategic planning and professional learning organization. And so what I want to say to you is that we are committed to these 3 things: learning, collaboration, and results. The learning, the guaranteed and viable curriculum, we're living that now. It's in place. It's K through 4. We have developed common formative assessments. We are having conversations. That collaboration piece is happening. You do see it. There's a systematic approach to promote team learning. We're analyzing, we're improving practices, we're doing quick checks, we're trying to find different ways to support students in their learning. And then lastly, results. So improved results, we know, that's the success. This idea of high expectations leading to improved performance, I truly believe in that. That's the Pygmalion effect. If you haven't researched that, there's a lot to that. And again, just the teacher efficacy. And that expertise is shown by how teachers think about what they do. And when you think about Hattie, the researcher, and the mind frames, we have to be evaluators of the impact on student learning. I think about what's my impact on principals, what is principals' impact on teachers, what's teachers' impact on students. So it starts with me and it works through the system. But ultimately, we evaluate our impact. So that's what we're all about in this professional learning organization model with our PLCs. How do we take away us and put it about kids and what they're learning? How are we impacting their learning? And I welcome any feedback or questions that you might pose for me to come back to give you the middle of the year benchmark data.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Nicole and I were able to see some PLC meetings and see schools, several schools, maybe 2 or 3 during there, talk about data, which was really exciting, specifically the CFAs, and dive right into this student and this question or these students, which was, I think, really impactful. And just the conversations teachers were having were great. As far as the data, do you have any thoughts as to, I noticed like second grade in WEA was the biggest gap between the norm and then also CFAs. There just seems to be any ideas what's going on, or is that something you're analyzing, or?
Absolutely. It's something that we saw in our data. So last year when I was in, let's see, that would have been winter. Cynthia, Sam, and I, we were doing a gallery walk on the data, and we were comparing winter to winter. And that was the area of concern, was that second grade dip. With NWA, if you ask teachers, one of the things that is different is they start reading the content in grade 2. So whereas K1, it's being read to them, when they switch to grade 2 for NWA, they have to read it. And we know some of our kids are not reading at grade level, so I think that creates somewhat of a barrier. However, I still think there's more to learn about the second grade curriculum to make sure that, it's a transition year too, though. Learning to read versus, it's that transition of applying a lot of the foundational skills from K1, and that's their first exposure.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So
I would think also, if it's the first year,
Right.
at the beginning, it's exciting, we're doing something new, and then by the time you get to winter, it's like, we have to do that. You know what I mean? There's that,
Not
there's
to
that
mention,
winter slump
we've had the COVID year in there.
that everybody
And,
gets,
you're
yeah.
At the point where you're learning to read,
Right.
and then you're stuck to go virtual, that's gotta be rough. I would explain a little bit of the,
From first to second,
no,
right.
it'd be
Yeah.
horrible.
That's true.
Well, yeah, in that second grade, there's no excuse, but that second grade group is the group that would have been kindergarten in the spring when I'm learning to read and all of my
There's a
first grade
difference between an
foundations.
excuse and an explanation.
So I think it's definitely an area that we need to continue to watch very closely. And even, I get, that's a great point with that second grade team, when we do our district, Google Meet, it's not a reflection of you, but let's talk about what we can do, because we know it's a natural gap. And you see that at the middle levels at grade 7 in math, that, as well.
Okay, great.
But yeah.
And you're in the window, you're in the winter window right now, right?
Yes.
They're like in the
Yes.
process of taking the second round of NWA now.
We were able to see Vail and discussions of the NWA and students setting goals and having those goals with them and trying to reach those.
They specifically were doing the test talks and,
Right.
saying, okay, this is, each kid had their individual goals, and it was
Mhm.
just impressive.
That student ownership, I think, is so
Well, and knowing where you're at, like, what does
Right,
the
knowing
score
where you
mean?
want-
So like, what is, when we talk about those subcategories, what's my area of strength versus my area of weakness? Okay, nonfiction, okay, what is nonfiction? You know what I mean? Like, even with the littles, we just need to make sure that we're having those conversations and communicating.
And one of the things I was most impressed with when we visited Fairview, everything's very intentional and directed, and yet there's so much room still for creativity within the instructional process. So they were just, they were even doing a lot of co-teaching, and so it wasn't like, okay, every single thing is, oh, you've got to do this, this, this. The goal is what is put before them, and that's where the rigor is. They still have a lot of flexibility and creativity in the process, and so I loved that.
Well, and just to continue to add to, and again, amazing presentation and amazing work that Mrs. Sansini, the team, our central office leadership team, central office curriculum instruction team has put in, our building level leaders, the educators who spent countless hours implementing and putting this in motion. Just tremendous work. But as we continue to move down the road, the mindset shift that we will continue to implement and implore is going to center around dissecting data and drilling down deeply into data so that we can definitely provide descriptive feedback. That's one of the things that will start to be a cornerstone of what our educators are doing, is helping students understand exactly where they are, but most importantly, why they are there. So you received an A, but I want to express to you as to why you received an A compared to a B, or you have a D, or even moving away from such traditional thought. You're here at mastery because of, or you're still striving to mastery because you have yet to truly understand this particular concept of theory. And then identifying those targets, clearly defining the targets, allowing students to make mistakes without penalty from an intellectual and academic standpoint. I mean, these are all things that as we move down the road and as we establish systemic checks and balances, will be where we need to be. But moving towards semester 2 and returning to a basic model, if you will, and that's one of the things we've been talking about, is returning back to the basics. Just as Mrs. Sonsini has that John Hattie model, just focusing on what is truly impacting student learning, and that is, as we know, the craft of the educators in our classroom. They are the most important people in our classrooms, and them improving upon their craft, coming into that classroom prepared and ready to go, which, as we know, many of our professionals are, is going to be something that we continue to support, providing differentiation, and ultimately getting students up to par with their reading comprehension. It's a skill set, and as Mrs. Sonsini alluded to, and as you all have referenced, it's something that we have to do. It's not just something that kind of matters, it's huge. It makes a world of difference when a student is on grade level or up to par with their reading. And so for semester 2, and as is always the case, we're going to really drive home those points as we start to recalibrate and re-examine some of the things that we're doing, because as was also highlighted, we have some areas of improvement in some of our student achievement, and that's going to be top priority as we continue to move down the road of all the other areas that we'll continue to refine and smooth out some of those rough edges. Student achievement is top priority.
Well, this is important because we have to measure, we have to know, we have to measure, because it's our job as to allocate the resources in the areas that need it. And if we don't have that data to support that, then we're wasting money, or possibly wasting money, I should say, not necessarily wasting money, but
Maximizing.
But I'm glad that we're back to talking about students and students' data and where they're at and what we can do to improve them, and that's one of the hopes that I have with the Payable model, is getting away from the feelings that the teachers feel like we're looking for gotchas, to the part that let's work together to close the gap. And this is the only way that we're going to be able to do it.
Well, I think that also is the coaching model, right? We all need reinforcement, but also refinement. So tell me something I'm doing good, but tell me something that I can work on to get better. And I think if we all model that, everyone, then collectively, but it's a mindset shift, that I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm a learner, that I can grow.
Well, and that comes back to, and I know you've heard me say it time and again, I'll continue to say it, and I don't want to steal her thunder because I know she's up next, but Mrs. Hazelbaker will allude to it, but we just have to continue to exercise humility as educators and remain lifelong learners and understand and know that we can continue to grow as such. But between humility, self-service, and resiliency, I think we can arrive at such a point in which it's not a gotcha. And as educators, we too should afford ourselves grace and understand that we will have opportunities to make mistakes without penalties as we grow through this mindset shift. At the same time, holding ourselves accountable to be at our very best with the craft, because just as the students who entertained us this evening are counting on, we have to get it right for them. And so I'm excited as you all are getting me pumped up again. I was a little fatigued coming into this evening, but hearing about where we're going and what we're doing, this is exciting.
I appreciate the fact that you started out basically when giving us the statistics, the norms and all that. You gave us very real numbers, very real percentages. I've been a board member long enough to know that in the past, someone in that similar position and doing a presentation would have scaled over and skirted over those and offered up something. But when you've got the reality of knowing where we are, it gives us, as a board and also collectively as classroom teachers and everything else, a baseline where we know where we are and we know that this is where we can go. It gives us something to work on, and as Jeff said, it gives us directive of where to allocate resources to assist those teachers to help them. So I appreciated that amongst everything else. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Sonsini.
Dr. Ray?
President Weber, trustees, I now ask that our communications coordinator, Mrs. Bridget Hazelberry, come up and also provide a presentation, highlights into her wonderful world of communications.
I know. I know. Oh, I'm sorry, I touched it. All right, so just to, let me go back. You went to the, Mr. Hazelbaker, will you move it back? I went to the wrong one. Thank you, sir. All right, so thank you again for letting me share tonight. Just a little bit about me, those who don't know about me, but I began working at Richmond Schools in July 2010. Previous to that, I was the program director at Communities and Schools here in Wayne County. I have over a decade of experience in public relations and communications, and then I graduated from IU East in 2005. Thank you, Mr. Hazelbaker. And I'm a 1992 alum of Richmond High School. So, yeah, all right, here we go, yeah. So, just some people have asked, what does the RCS Communications Coordinator do? So, I get that a lot. So, let me just show a little bit. This is just a snapshot. My job is to share all the positive stories of RCS through communication and marketing efforts by preparing graphic designs, photography, written materials, social media, our website, you name it. Our gentlemen here, our press, these are my buddies. So I try to make sure I keep an open relationship, communication with them, keeping it going. Communicate the 5 W's for RCS, the who, what, when, where, and why of our students, our staff, our stakeholders, and maintain the identity of RCS, record and teach its history, and cultivate its branding. So a small story is that we had the remembrance of Pearl Harbor, the bombing of Pearl Harbor yesterday. So I shared on some of our social media that 80 years ago, we had the dedication of McGuire Hall. So during that ceremony, they went on stage and explained that the bombing had just occurred in Hawaii. So after that, we had many of our students enlist into the service after that day. So another thing, I also plan or serve on many committees for school events. So this is just a little snapshot again. Kindergarten, pre-K roundup, our back to school nights, excellence in education award ceremony, Title I, Mathpalooza, open houses, the Boston Run, ribbon cutting, state of the schools, you name it. So I'm on a lot of those different things here in the district, and I also serve on several boards outside of here. So I'm on the WayNet board. I'm also going to be a new member of the Main Street Richmond. Don Sonsini, for that committee too. So also help with Birth to 5, just trying to keep that collaboration and that partnerships working for our district. So how does the RCS Communication Coordinator do it here at Richmond? So we get asked that a lot too. We have a new website that we launched again the beginning of the school year. We have 80,000 unique visits right now. Still working on the Google Analytics, but the Edleo website has been very, very kind to us right now. I right now am the point person to update that, so updating that a lot with staff, directory information, photos, calendars, all that for our staff. We have over 60 social media accounts spread across the district: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Pinterest. I also help with hundreds of emails, text messages, and phone calls throughout the school year sent via school messenger to our families. And now we're also working with Bus Garage to let we can hand pick those kids that ride Bus 98 and send a message to them, so it's not going to the whole district. We're worried about message fatigue somewhat. Some of us get a lot of messages. So trying to narrow that down a little bit so it's not quite so burdensome. And also for staff, we're doing a staff e-newsletter now. So trying to get so not reading so many emails that the information will be in one location for staff. So we're doing teachers' pets right now and collecting pictures from teachers, staff members of them and their pets, and we'll be showcasing that at winter break. Also, over 50 graphic designs, including brochures, social media posts, and other publications. So just here's some data just to look at a little bit. This is Facebook and Twitter. Of course, we seem to be all okay, but we seem to have spiked a little bit. August was our big month. Of course, that's when school starts. We have the school supply list, bus information, changes in buses, pictures. We did the first day of school pictures in all the buildings. So that's why we have just a large spike in there. So just kind of shows you those unique hits that we have. When we looked at Instagram, LinkedIn, and our new TikTok, TikTok is growing, and I'm a 47-year-old mom who does TikTok, so I'm not into the group of it all yet. But I have 3 adult children, so they help me, and a 5-year-old who helps me too. But if you looked at the LinkedIn, that spike, that is when we announced Billy Wright as our new Director of Student Achievement and of basketball coach. So when we've been sharing some of that information, we putting also some job information on LinkedIn also to just, again, try to reach families, trying to reach stakeholders and students. Instagram is where we have been reaching some of our younger parents. Facebook still has those 47-year-old moms. Oh, Aaron, are you raising your hand?
I am. I didn't see the spike for Dr. Wright.
You'll see that in the June, July. Well, we had that. Was it? You'll see the photos, but we have some spikes.
I love you, Dr. Wright.
What do you see the birthday song?
Well, it was, I thought you told me that was the Free Blizzard Day.
Yes, right, for teachers.
Dairy Queen Free Blizzard, oh, wow.
So moving on, we had why does the RCS
Yes,
Communications Coordinator matter for Richmond Community Schools? So we're looking at that. Parents and students, staff, they need to know who RCS is. So what our district has to offer, when it's available, where the events will take place, and why they should be part of the RCS community. And then we also are trying to be open-minded, let people who do not have kids that maybe want to visit, if they read articles in publications, some of our, we have, flyers around the schools, pamphlets at Reed Hospital, things like that. People can still see what's happening in Richmond schools even though they don't have kids in our district. So, and then also, these gentlemen are always looking for the next big story. So it's, we're always trying to share those positive stories that are happening in Richmond Community Schools. So it's, again, a great way to keep that positively and keep that going through. So the future plans for RCS Communications, what does that look like? Looking at possibly doing some more customer service training for our frontline staff. Just maybe even doing that secret shopper again. Years ago we did secret shopper, had someone pretend they were a parent coming in to sign up a kid for school. How did that work? Was there parking available at the front of the building? Was there trash around? Just looking at different things like that. Again, trying, if our district offers something nice and we just don't want to be compared to another district that may be also shopping around for that student, for that family. Looking at bi-weekly possible Facebook Live show with Dr. Wright. That would include students, staff, parent interviews, pre-recorded, we'll show those off. Looking at those to kind of get him into the limelight a little bit more. So,
like once a month would probably be enough.
Well, we can. That's a goal.
Here comes that spike.
Yeah, we'll see the spike in data. Looking also at bulletin boards.
Without a doubt.
We have bulletin board option on our website that we can do less paper of those Friday folders and maybe do some more information in, as far as graphics for the e-learning, for e-newsletters. All of our staff, all of our teachers are using, not teachers, our principals are using SMORE. It's online newsletter, and parents can see it on their phones while they're at soccer practice, things like that. Again, we're doing that staff e-newsletter. Right now, it's just once a month, so we're looking at maybe opening that up to bi-weekly. We'll see. I don't know. Again, this is future options maybe. Speaker circuit, again, seeing if we get some of our cabinet upper level administrators to be on a speaker circuit, Rotary, retired teachers, Lions Club, again, just to get some of those people who may not have students in the district any longer, just to share again the positive news that's happening in our district. And then something that's a great big shiny star that I would love to do sometime, and we'll see, Marketing Committee has heard some of this already, is the Red Devil Ambassador Program. That's just an opportunity that we would invite different key stakeholders into possibly ride a bus or sit on the bus and hear about the Transportation Department one meeting, 1 month. Maybe hear from Food Service Department 1 month. And again, at the end of that, we would give them a special little card that they would be able to go to any event for free. And it's, again, just word of mouth to talk about how great the program is.
Are we allowed to add to your list?
We can, and that's on the next slide. So hold on. So
I see one I want to add. I want to add something.
So those are.
I'll wait till the next slide.
But these are again just some ideas. The people who are on the marketing committee, Mr. Walton, Mr. Weber, and Mrs. Stoltz. So we've been looking at ideas. We have a communication plan still, and then of course with Dr. Wright still looking at that, looking at maybe doing some new branding. I don't know. We'll see what that looks like. What does that mean for the district? And again, money's an issue too, but we can always look at sponsorships and trying to find things also. So there you go. So
Now my time.
yes, what do you have for me?
Well, I've had several conversations with Sandy Rowell lately, and I would love to see the Alumni Association become more involved. Not that they're not involved, but I'd like to see them become more involved with us and work more in partnership instead of independently. And I don't know what that would look like exactly.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what that would look like.
But I would be interested in starting a conversation about that, and there's a lot of things that we'd like to do in the future, whether that's a foundation-based way or it would just be nice for that partnership to really grow to another level. And I don't know exactly what that is, but
Well, I do know they passed out over $95,000 in scholarships to alum this year. So, and I think that was 43 students that received those scholarships. So, and then they're working on fundraising a lot. I am on their board for the Alumni Association, and have several people who would like to be members. We can get that formed for you.
well, I just think
But
that would just benefit both of us.
It would.
If that really grew.
Well, and they're doing a golf outing. They're doing some more alumni things. They're doing a lot with the 30th class reunion for the state championship. There's some things happening here and there. Again, their big focus has been a lot of scholarships, and they do have quite a big chunk of money. But again, it's right now just for scholarships. So, but yeah, I'd be very interested to hear what we could do.
And I'm not just suggesting we take that chunk of money away from them.
Oh yeah, no.
But if we want to redo an athletic facility and we can do it as a partnership, and we want to have sponsorship and have, I don't know, a wrought iron fence, for example.
Exactly.
I mean, we've talked about, years and years, we've talked about what a foundation plan would look like for the Richmond community schools, and, so I just think the Alumni Association could be a large.
Well, and that was
part of
something Pat Heine, when she was board member, she had talked about that quite a bit. And she had actually gone to some conferences too, about bringing an education foundation to Richmond, and what would that look like. So I don't know where the board will want to move forward with that or not. Any other questions? Anyone have anything else? I'll be coming back up later for the bell ringer.
I don't have a question. I have more of a kudos, I think, based on recent events. I was really proud of the positive focus of the, was it Monday, I think? I just reached my time limit here. The "This is who we are" post was really, that was good, because I think it says high school athletics exists for students to learn valuable life lessons while playing sports they love. We refuse to allow outside circumstances to disrupt our educational and athletic mission. We are here for our students, and this is who we are. And I thought that was a really good, positive message. And I really like that. I was grateful for that. It's good stuff.
else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bridget?
All right. Moving on to board reports. Item 8.01, return to in-person learning plan with no changes. Dr. Wright?
President Weber, trustees, U.S. Department of Education regulations require that the return to in-person instruction plans must be reviewed and revised as needed every 6 months, must include public comment, and should be posted on the district or school website. At this time, there are no recommended changes here within the Richmond Community School system. However, we would like to offer the opportunity for public commentary. Seeing that there is no commentary, we will move on and note that here on December 8th of 2021, there was no public commentary for a return in-person learning plan.
I would like to have this approved by the board and would entertain a motion to do so.
I'll move.
Motion by Keith Morey,
I'll second.
second by Brad Walton. Any additional questions or comments?
We've talked several different times about at some point later, I know with the new variant coming through and nobody knows truly what's happening there. I mean, I see no reason to go away from the plan, but at some point, we're gonna get there. So has there been further thoughts about a coloring system, or are we just gonna revisit that sometime in January after we're back and everything's settled down?
Yes, sir, I believe so, and I don't want to steal any of Mrs. O'Brien's thunder if she wants to add too, but ideally at this particular time, I think our next board meeting, which is Wednesday, January 12th, would be an opportune time for us to revisit this particular topic, and definitely by then we'll have more information, data, and results to review. Yes, sir.
I just add that part of the requirement is that from the U.S. Department of Education is that we review the plan, even if we don't make any changes, every 6 months, and we have to do that until 2023. And so you can anticipate that every June and every December, the plan is going to be brought before you, whether we make changes or not. Now, if there's anything that happens in between that, you know, we could bring it back every month if you so choose. But again, the requirement is every 6 months until 2023.
Thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Board reports, I will open up the floor. If there's any additional board reports, or
I would like to
Mr. Walton.
announce that we, as representatives, Mr. Slifer, Mr. Weber, myself, Dr. Wright, Ms. Scalf, Ms. O'Brien, and our attorney, Mr. Rubright, have been working diligently with REA. Spent, 7 hours today, 4 hours on Monday, or 3 hours on Monday. And we have reached a tentative agreement with REA on a 2-year contract. They will go to vote on Monday. So this is all pending ratification.
They'll vote on it Monday, we won't.
They will vote on it Monday for ratification, and we'll come back to the board. Baseline puts it at a $2,000 raise for this year and a $750 raise for next year. Which allows, by going to the 2-year contract, really allows us to, allows Karen a lot more flexibility and sleep at night to be able to budget for 2 years and so know how things are going to look. So, anybody have any questions about the process or anything that's happened there?
No, but I just appreciate, I appreciate the REA wanting to settle the agreement. Neither one of us wanted it to go any further. I appreciated Kelly's, because if we didn't come to an agreement, at some point, I think within a matter of a couple of weeks, it would have had to go to fact-finding in the state, and that's just not, that's not what we want. That's not what they want.
It wouldn't be beneficial for either party.
Let's give the REA some credit, and we're appreciative that we're moving forward.
Absolutely. I know they worked diligently. They spent countless hours, as have we. And I think truly this is probably the best offer that could come out of this, to be financially sound as a district and still reward teachers. Obviously, if money was no object, then the raises would be much higher. We all appreciate what goes on in the classroom, and not just teachers, but support staff and everyone involved. We would love to just give out money, but we don't want to have to cut programs and cut other areas to do that. We've got to be financially sound, but at the same time reward those who are busting their tails for us every day. And ultimately, this is probably going to be most beneficial for the students, first and foremost. And that's what we've tried to keep our mind and our goals at, is how does it benefit the students in the classroom.
I appreciate the board. It was a lot of work by all the members, and it's nice to hopefully see the end of that process. Anything else? Yes.
I would like to say that I went to my first girls basketball game last night. It was very exciting. The Devilettes were there, the band was there, there were a lot of administrators there. It was a fantastic game. There were announcements made at the beginning about, conduct, which I thought was just a great reminder, but lots of enthusiasm at the game. And they didn't quite win it. It was so close, but it was a great game to go to, so it was exciting.
It was the Silent Night game.
It was Silent Night, yeah. It took me a minute to realize that. My husband,
What is going on? The crowd is really dead tonight.
And then after the 6th point, it went crazy. So.
Speaking of which, Dennis girls basketball, their opener was canceled last night due to Eastern Hancock being quarantined. So their opener was tonight. And I'm missing my daughter's first basketball game for
Oh, no.
Just got the update. They did get beat by Newcastle this evening. But 8th graders take the court here soon, I do believe. So.
All right. Any additional?
Still going,
Oh, sorry. Just one item.
I wanted to say that since the last board meeting, Nicole and I have gotten to visit at Test, CYS, Hibbard, Vail, and today at RHS. And just to reiterate, just so many wonderful things going on in our schools. We were able in virtually every school to talk to teachers, staff, students, walk through the building and see what's going on today at RHS. And just since we talked about curriculum guide tonight, there are just so many wonderful programs and classes and opportunities there. We visited a biomed class. We got to visit an alternative ed classrooms and several other, walk through the entire building, but many wonderful things going on. We were there during several passing periods, and it was very calm, really, and the high school, it was a good day to visit. So all of the buildings, just exciting things going on.
Fantastic. Anyone else?
I wonder if principals could get you the forms. Maybe you could help them with some observations. You're in there a lot. Maybe they don't want to do that.
Man, your tune's changed now you're in the ministry.
Yeah, that's right. No, but I am
Oh, come on. If I'm a teacher, I'd rather have one of them watching me than...
Keith, I'm helping with the door decorating contest.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
All right. I just had one housekeeping issue with basketball season here and parking in Tiernan. What's the process on the band trailers? Do we know? Are they going to be parked in the parking lot indefinitely, or?
They're not there.
They're gone?
They've been moved.
Okay.
They've been gone for at least a week now.
Thank you. I don't even pay attention anymore, but appreciate that.
That's coming from our communications director.
She would know.
It was on Facebook. No.
On Instagram and TikTok.
He's been
All right, anything else for board reports?
Thank you for my birthday song. Thank you.
All right, moving on to preview of upcoming meeting and events. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, our next board meeting is indeed Wednesday, January 12th. By then, we will have had a holiday season, and I definitely wish you all the very best during that holiday season. Again, with the synergy that we were serenaded with, and yes, Mr. Stevens, this board meeting is going to spike in the social media world, being that I had gotten up and dusted off my songbird chops. I'm not sure if I was trying not to outdo the young lady I was standing next to, but so I backed off a little bit. But no, I tell you, it definitely is, as Mrs. Brunton mentioned, just to echo, just a wonderful time, and I'm so excited as to what semester 2 is going to bring. And again, I have a little holiday cheer, being that my family would call me a Grinch. I'm the type that I take the batteries out, I unplug all the lights, I'm not, no.
Well, with much respect.
Yes, sir.
With much respect, I will refer to you as Luther Van Wright now.
Instead of Van Droll, so.
All
Well, thank
right.
you, sir.
Hopefully your heart will grow 3 sizes this year.
Moving right along
Thank you,
to
sir. Please do.
bell ringer.
Yes.
Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I again ask that our communications specialist, Mrs. Hazelbaker, quickly come up to the podium and share with us some of the exciting things transpiring, as well as those that
Many of the things have been spoken about tonight, so thank you. So successful RCS orchestra concert last night at Civic Hall. Star Elementary School and Vale Elementary School also hosted winter musical programs at Civic Hall. The Firehouse Barbecue and Blues served over 500 meals to Star families on Thanksgiving, and this was even in hate of after the fire. So they had a partnership with the Abilities store, and so they were able to work through that area and use a commercial kitchen to get information. They had many volunteers for that also. Mrs. Sansini and her family even helped. RHS student Addison Moore, she's a national level gymnast, took advantage of the flexibility and opportunities for RHS students, resulting in her nomination to the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. RHS also kicked off the successful This Is Who We Are campaign at last night's girls basketball game. The Bleacher Creatures also hosted their infamous Silent Night for their theme. Since our last board meeting, RHS senior Lonnie Eubanks graduated with her Core 40 Honors Diploma from the RHS Alternative Education Program. Also, RHS seniors Deja James, Brennan Jones, Jason Pitts, and Macy Twine graduated with their Core 40 diplomas. Charles Elementary School National Elementary Honor Society traveled to Brookdale Senior Living Center and decorated windows for their residents. My grandmother, who's a retired Cresdale teacher at Georgia Shuck, is a resident there, and she enjoyed their artwork very much. And I just wanted to add on to some of his upcoming events. This Saturday is the first annual Tom Hill Memorial Wrestling Invite. Tom Hill was a state wrestler at the school, at Richmond High School, and his family started a scholarship last year, and they're also doing this wrestling tournament, the first wrestling tournament for the high school students. There are 6 schools coming. Again, the Richmond High School Choir concert next Tuesday. Next Friday, the 17th, the Crystal Dreams Foundation is presenting Miss Ware donation for Richmond School. She was the Teacher of the Year. She's an alum of Richmond High School. So we're doing a Google Meet with her during her prep period up at Tippecanoe Schools, and they're doing a presentation. So our student council will be over at Civic Hall next Friday at 9:30. Of course, Christmas break, the wedding basketball tournament is coming up on December 28th, and then we have that teacher work day, and students come back on the 5th.
So something Bridget mentioned, the alternative school graduation, we learned something I did not know. Apparently they do a bell ringing. Okay, so other people knew about this. I thought that was the coolest thing. So they've got those bells going, and they walk through, and they get to sign their block in the wall.
And if you ever find at a garage sale and you find a bell, buy it so you can donate it so people, the students can hold a bell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hazel Baker.
Thank you. We will have a executive session following adjournment. If there's nothing else for the good of the cause, I will adjourn the meeting.